What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. My name is Ken from the PT Assistants, and today let's talk about multiple sclerosis. Alright, so you guys know how it goes. Let's go over first what multiple sclerosis is. We'll get into how someone gets multiple sclerosis, different kind of classifications for it. We'll also get into the clinical presentation, what the implications are for us as physical therapist assistants, and then we'll wrap it up with some outcomes as well as what the long-term effects are. Alright, first things first, let's get into what multiple sclerosis is. We can break down at least the sclerosis portion of the word. Sclerosis meaning the abnormal hardening of body tissue. So in the case of multiple sclerosis, we're looking at the demyelination of the myelin sheaths that surround the nerve. So with this demyelination, it will lead to some plaque development. The way this gets monitored is with MRIs. Jumping over to the how for multiple sclerosis. It is actually idiopathic, so we don't know the exact cause for MS. Some theories are behind genetics, some viral infections, and they believe that the environment also has a role to play. MS is also typically more found in Caucasians in the age group of 20 to 35 years of age, twice as likely in women than in men, and there is a higher incidence in temperate climates. Jumping on over to some classifications for MS, we have the relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, or the RRMS, which is actually the most common at 85%. The other classifications are secondary progressive MS, primary progressive MS, and progressive relapsing MS. Jumping on over to the clinical presentation, this all varies depending on the 4 subclasses of MS, and even then it still depends on the location, the extent of the demyelination that's occurred, and the degree of the sclerosis itself. So with that being said, the symptoms and the effects that it has on the body are still very similar. It just depends on the degree of how it progresses. You're still going to have vision problems, paresthesias, not sure if I'm saying that right, but it means the pins and needles feeling. You'll have some sensory changes. There'll be some clumsiness, weakness, ataxia, balance dysfunction, as well as fatigue. So how are we going to address all these clinical presentations, and what does it mean for us as PTAs? So for physical therapy, the goal is to maximize their functional capacity and improve their quality of life. So for this, we're going to be regulating their activity levels, working on some energy conservation techniques because they do fatigue rather quickly, normalizing their tone, so thinking that most of them are going to be spastic, so making sure that we do a lot of stretching, holding those for 30 to 60 seconds. To work on the clumsiness, so we're going to be looking at balance activities, so single leg stance, engaging the core, reducing the risk of falls. This also goes hand in hand with gait training. And finally, working on adaptive and assisted device usage, so teaching them while they're in the physical therapy clinic and making sure they keep that up at home. Getting into the patient education as well as the home care. So safety above all else, so keeping in mind that they can be clumsy, they can feel fatigued. So for this, they have the higher risk of falls. Working on those energy conservation techniques. Make sure that they break up their tasks so that they can handle them better and avoid the fatigue. Some activities that they can keep doing at home are going to be submax or endurance training programs. Doing these more in the morning is more effective because in the afternoons they can feel a little more fatigued and they're more well rested in the mornings. Ongoing ambulation and mobility activities. This is important so that they don't lose the muscle that they do have. Once they lose the muscle mass, then it's harder to regain it back. And finally, some aquatic therapy can also be beneficial. And the degrees that we're looking for here because of the heat intolerance is going to be 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Finishing up with some factors that can exacerbate some symptoms are going to be heat, stress, infection, trauma, and pregnancy, so make sure you keep those in mind when doing your treatments. And finally, to wrap up this video, we have our outcome goals or long-term effects that we're going to be looking at. So like I said before, maximizing functional capacity and improving the quality of life is very important. Physical therapy will not alter the progression of the disease, but here we are to look more for maintenance and making sure that they can still achieve their highest level of function in whatever stage they are in their disease. The long-term effects highly depend on when you got diagnosed with disease, what type of disease you got classified under. There are some instances where you'll have some permanent damage and disabilities. You can have instances where you can live with rarely any complications at all. And finally, the mortality rate for MS largely depends on the secondary complications. So not from MS itself, but from either disuse atrophy, pressure sores, or contractures, to name a few. Alright, and that just about wraps it up for MS. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to listen to us talk more about this topic, be sure to tune in to our podcast. Be sure to follow us on our social medias on Twitter, Instagram, and join the Facebook group. All of those are going to be at the PT Assistants. Let us know if you had any experiences with MS when you guys treated them, or any tips and tricks. Leave them down below. Also, if you have any topics you'd like us to cover in the future, be sure to leave those down below as well. And stick around for some review questions. Let me know how many you get right. Alright, hope you guys take care.